That's not a directly study-related question, but if you have a comment to offer, then that would be good.
The outcome of the study, which is significant, and I've received a vast amount of positive comments from around the world, is that sensation is a description that residents affected by wind farms understand, and they now realise that they may have been talking about noise, not sensation. There are no criteria in any of the regulations around the world for sensation, because you've heard it first, where sensation came from. So if the DBA and that doesn't work, but sensation is a new area, then that's what this report leads to discussion. And there is a great deal of interest overseas about it, investigating it and following on from this work. So if I've invented a mousetrap and somebody else can go further and invent a better mousetrap, then that's the mousetrap we want. And I understand what's being said, but I'm restricted in what I did in the study, and I think that we've come up with something to explain the concerns of residents, because the DBA stuff doesn't. And that's, I think, where we're up to.
Thanks, Stephen. Any more questions? Yep, come on over so we can hear your view.
Keith Staff from Penshurst. I'm president of the local landscape gardens group. My simple question, obviously to Steve, is with Steve's vast experience of the equipment they could use, Steve, for the study at Cape Bridgewater, would this same equipment be used by supposedly independent consultants doing noise assessments for proponents?
No, the noise assessments normally done for a wind farm application are based upon noise loggers. They're permitted in the standards to use what's called a Type 2, which is not that high a grade, and only does dBA, so they don't measure these frequencies. They don't go down to the low levels of noise, and there are many of the graphs that you'll see in the regression lines that stop at the bottom, which is the instrumentation floor. It's not the equipment that is used for looking at infrasound. If you want to do it in microphones, it's expensive, very expensive. It's like $4,000 a microphone, then a preamp on it, and then you've got to have the gear to do it. There are people here in Australia, including me and overseas, experimenting with microbarometers, which overcome a lot of those problems, and particularly in terms of price. We need standardisation for it, and even if we use microphones, we need standardisation for doing the narrowband work. That's what that American standard was about as one method, but it actually uses or nominates very inferior instruments that you actually won't be able to measure the stuff properly. We also have a problem with the international standard for sound level meters, needs fixing up, and that's what I pointed out in the Wind Farm Conference in Denver in 2013. So generally you can't do this stuff, nor do they do it, and we've now got sensation, which is not DBA.
Mary Morris. I'm from near Waterloo Wind Farm, and I guess the study that the South Australian EPA did over there was where you got the starting point for your sensation ideas. My question is, can you just clarify for me how far away the residents were from the turbines at Waterloo that described to you they could tell when the turbines were on and off? How far away were they?
Between 2.2 and 8 kilometres.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, like a proposition.
You don't have to wait for me to ask. If you have a question, you're welcome to come up and just stand behind the person that's asking the current question now.
I'm David Mortimer and my wife Anita are from the Mate Body Wind Farm in South Australia. I'm not terribly sure who's going to answer this question or how, but if sensation impacts you described in your report were known in the early 80s from the Kelly study that have been ignored, then from your report, who is responsible for permitting these adverse effects, bearing in mind that my wife and I have been adversely affected from the effects of the wind turbines and the sensations since 2004? Who is responsible?
In terms of the Kelly stuff, I think he had his curve the wrong way around for infrasound, because I tried his curve and it didn't work. They had a different type of turbine. The symptoms that are expressed were coming from impulsive nature, and they clearly, I mean, he had a few mediocre groups of people to help him, somebody called NASA or something, and MIT. But the wind turbine signature is there out to 10 kilometres. As to the responsibility for how it's occurred, I'm just the noise guy.
Yeah, okay.
He's actually got a cramp in his leg.
Should have a drink.
Did someone come in to ask a question? Yep. You can walk up and down with questions being asked.
I'm actually going to ask two questions which are correlated. The first one was that I submitted is number 34. As a Cape Bridgewater resident of House 87, I ask the following. From your report, can you derive a separation distance from wind turbines from homes based on sensations? For our 3 homes which were subject of this study, what should those separation distances be? Given the severity of your findings from the testing at Cape Bridgewater, would you accept that living permanently exposed to the reported conditions is a hazard?
Okay. The House 87 is the one that's on, it's 1,600 metres, but it's actually on the side of the hill. The front door of the house is level with the base of turbine 27, at least by looking at a laser ranger. So it's in a position that it's fully exposed to what's coming from the turbines, and it actually was the one that was having the highest levels. House 88 and House 89 are in a shadow zone, so they actually got a bit less infrasound or wind turbine signature. If you assume that the turbines propagate at 3 dB or 4 dB per doubling of distance in the infrasound, and you look at the WTS that was done at House 87, then if that house was moved back and had the hill behind it in the same elevation, the distance is about 7 kilometres. For House 88 and 89 it will be less, but I don't have the directivity stuff to work that out. Would I, the second part? I'm not qualified to talk about health.
Given the severity of your findings from the testing, would you accept that living permanently exposed to the reported conditions is a hazard?
I'm not qualified to say that. If I look at it from what the residents have told me of Sensation 5, then it's certainly a problem living there. Would I live there, which is another question later on? No.
Okay, so in correlation with that, number 46, what would be the ultimate resolution to eliminate the problems you have identified in your comprehensive report? So what do you see as a resolution for us residents who can't go back to our homes? Is there any resolution to do anything in relation to the wind farm so we can ever return while the wind farm is operating?
I can't create any resolution